Hello and welcome to the latest episode of The Hex with John Arnold, Armand Kafai, and Daniel Robertson. Guys, we've got lots of MLS Cup playoffs to get into. Should you get fired for using ChatGPT at your job? And a champagne question for MLS fans out there. So we will get into the hottest topics of the week. This is The Hex. All right, we are through round 2 of the MLS Cup playoffs. We have seen 3 teams advance. 5 teams will go to the third and final deciding game of the series. Armand, who had the most impressive performance of this playoff round 2, which actually is finally done before Tuesday this time?
I know. It's definitely taken a long time, but I mean, finally we are getting some games to be resolved. But for me, guys, it's Vancouver. And the reason why it's Vancouver, and yes, you might say they had one of the more lopsided games in the first, out of the lopsided matchups in the first round. But FC Dallas came up to them and said, "We're going to just try to punch you in the mouth and play some of the most physical soccer that I personally have seen in a long time." FC Dallas made out the mission. So every time Mueller got the ball, we're going to chop him down. Every time that Vancouver touched the ball, there was a foul. Intense physical, contact, trying to simulate to draw fouls, etc. And Vancouver, I think, matched it with a team that's not necessarily their first team, right? Daniel Rios went out at the end of the first half.
Tristan Blackman.
They still were starting Ralph Priso. Tristan Blackman wasn't available for them. Tate Johnson went out as well at the end of the first half after a really rough challenge, which was totally fair, by the way. Just was a rough thing. And they stepped up, they stayed in the match, and they just persevered that really strong storm from FC Dallas, who was scrappy and fighting for their lives and playing on the edge of, I would say personally, of physicality, and got a result and won the penalty shootout to advance. For me, it might not be the most pretty way to win, but that's going to be a game that you're going to look back on this playoff journey that they're going on right now and say, hey, that was a true battle with a team that was just truly hungry. And who they have next? LAFC, who's going to be a team that maybe won't be as physical, but is going to be a different challenge in its own right. So for me, it's Vancouver, and also
they will be a little bit different of a challenge.
It'll be a little bit different.
I can confirm that.
Physical bloodbath, but also they get a month off and get Brian White and Tristan Blackman, which we did talk about could be a bad thing, maybe won't be a good thing, but whatever, guys, they advance. So
I think for Vancouver it's a good thing, John.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm taking the Philadelphia Union. I kind of slandered them a little bit going in to saying that I just felt like they were the most vulnerable team. That was before we even knew what their matchup was going to be.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I feel like the whole season they've just been kind of riding their luck. And I would actually argue that maybe they rode their luck in the first game, right? Yeah, they're winning, everything looks fine. Then all of a sudden, oh, shoot, you're in a shootout, but they kept their heads, rode Andre Blake, and got into the next round, or the next game, rather, with the win. And then they said, we're done with this.
Yeah.
By the 16th minute, it was 2-0 in Chicago. By the 35th minute, it was 3-0. Game over, series over, fans behaving poorly. The Fire just never looked in it because the Union delivered that knockout blow so early with the 2 goals from Ty Maribo. So when you have a team that likes to play defense, that has a goalkeeper they trust, and you get those early goals, especially in this format, which I think we'll talk more about later, it just feels over. And that's why I think it was really impressive what the Union did, because a lot of these series, as we'll talk about, are going to game 3s. A lot of these top-seeded teams, these teams that we all think will be maybe MLS Cup contenders or even winners, they're going to keep playing, and Philadelphia said, no, we're not going to get in this muck. We're not going to worry about this. And after sort of, I think, a little bit of a reality check in game 1, took game 2 extremely seriously and made sure that series was over. Heck, by the time some people had found it on Apple TV+.
Well, and John, I thought for Philadelphia, it was so important to end this because San Diego's sitting here right now and they're having to go back. And I don't think any of us really think San Diego's not going to beat Portland, but every game is a chance to get someone injured. It's a chance to get a red card for someone important. We saw CJ Dos Santos, the goalkeeper for San Diego, out. So finishing that is really important. Now, Armand, you mentioned Vancouver and how important it is for them to have some days off. Well, I think those are even more important now because we saw, for me, the most impressive performance of the weekend, LAFC. Guys, they beat Austin 4-1. But it was 3-0 in the first half, and I want to give you a little stat here. Okay, they scored 3 times in the first half. Each of those goals, the ball was in the other half of the field, in the possession of the other team, or the third one was a set piece. But in the possession of the other team, Austin had the ball at 20 minutes and 3 seconds on the clock. It was in their net at 20 minutes and 14 seconds. The second goal, 23:47. It's in their net at 24 minutes on the dot, and then a set piece from their own half for LAFC took 7 seconds with Brendan Hines, yikes, John, getting turned by Denis Bouanga, just a ridiculous goal. And it showed me, like, LAFC, when you get into one-off games, which every game for them is going to be a one-off for the rest of the season, you can game plan against LAFC, but they are a team that if you make one mistake, a single mistake during a game, there's a very good chance it's going to be on the back of the net and the other side. Whereas a team like Vancouver, yeah, they can get a little plotting at times. Obviously, they score goals, but their goals are more build up, set pieces. They're so good on. Whereas LAFC, you just get the ball, you go, and to me, that was just incredibly impressive.
Do you think they could play LAFC Vancouver now? Like, who says no? Vancouver, because they're trying to get those guys back?
That's a great point.
They should just get one of the conference finalists out of the way this weekend. Come on.
They do that. That's
but...
happened. I feel like that's happened in the NBA where, like, there'll be a game 7 after a game 1 of, like, a next series.
They do start
sometimes.
the next series, yeah. But typically not totally before the rest of the other matchup has no teams in it.
I'm sure the Vancouver front office, though, wants to have as many days as they can to sell that game. And yeah, I mean, we'll have plenty of time to preview the Whitecaps versus LAFC. I mean, that's going to be a fantastic matchup. Should be an awesome weekend, guys. 5 Game 3s, do or dies for MLS this weekend. We've got Charlotte hosting NYCFC on Friday night, a triple header on Saturday, Minnesota, Seattle, Cincinnati, Columbus, Miami, Nashville, and then Sunday evening, San Diego hosting Portland. John, I know Saturday is going to be a busy day for you with Lubbock hosting game day. Fortunately, though, 11 a.m. kickoff, right? So we can get that out of the way before all of the...
watching MLS all day.
Before, football, then football. But which of these 5 games really has your antenna up?
After what we saw last night, I'm really interested in Minnesota United Seattle.
Wow.
I think that series, we were saying in our group chat after the first couple Seattle goals, I guess first trio of Seattle goals, well, this is over. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. And I think the fact that Minnesota United, in a format when it would be very easy to pack it in and say, let's go home, even though maybe especially because I don't think they were the better team at all in that first game, and they were able to get the victory, the fact that they showed signs of life, to me, makes it interesting. And I think it was a somewhat close game. Maybe some of the series that you guys are going to pick was, there was a blow. I'm talking around the Cincinnati-Columbus series, which maybe one of you guys will pick, and certainly we can talk about and will be interesting. Like, to me, that almost makes it less interesting. Oh, this team won big, and then this team won big, and now it's like, well, okay, will it be another blowout? Will it be another kind of walkover? And it's not going to be intriguing. To me, this Minnesota United-Seattle series, because the way the teams play, the Sounders trying to be patient, not to play into Minnesota's strengths, but Minnesota still being good at what they do, sometimes kind of breaking out of that shell when they have to, like we saw when they were down so much. But for the most part, wanting to control, being happy not to have the ball. I just think that, like, because of the margins in that series being small, I think it's going to be really interesting, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's decided in a very dramatic way. So that's the one I'm highlighting to tune into after my Red Raiders' big win.
Yeah, I mean, it's they say styles make fights, right? And I feel like with Minnesota, Seattle, that's like, San Diego, Portland, I mean, is anyone really like it? Like you kind of said, it's like, okay, so a couple of these games is kind of like, who's going to play better that day? There's not really a lot of intrigue to, like, the stylistic matchup. For me, though, it's all about rivalry, and it's all about Cincinnati Columbus, because we said last week, I'd highlighted Cincinnati as like a team that's really on upset alert, and they were my performance of the week because I really thought they were going to lose to Columbus in this second round. Now, there was a red card that obviously kind of affected things too and maybe made the scoreline look a little bit worse than it was. However, you have this rivalry. You have Cincinnati, Columbus, two teams very familiar with each other, two coaches very familiar with each other. The Hell is Real Derby, all of that together. Sunday evening or Saturday evening kickoff. I think this is going to be an absolute banger. And I think Columbus goes into this one with a ton of confidence, feeling like they can knock off Cincinnati. And what a moment it would be for Columbus if they can do that, to say, hey, we have had a bad season, a lot of changes in coaches, a lot of different things, or front office staff, not coaches, but a lot of changes. And we still beat you guys. I wouldn't love their chances moving past this round, but I think, to me, Cincinnati Columbus is the one where I'm just so intrigued by it, because I think what does Cincinnati do if they lose to Columbus? What does the front office do? Do they blow it up? Do they change things? You sign Evander and then you lose in the first round to your biggest rival. What do they do there? There's a lot of stuff.
It was domination on Saturday. Like you said, a red card kind of conditioned things after a little after the half-hour mark, but the Crew were already up. And I think Cincinnati ended with like a .01
It was awful
because they had one shot and it wasn't remotely like dangerous at all. So it's funnier to me to get .01 than 0, because it's like you kind of tried at some point, but not really. It was a blowout. It was domination, but I think, like, I'm not saying the 1-0 game in the first game was a blowout. I just wonder if Cincinnati at home with Evander will be able to sort of rally. Yeah. But it's a good question.
And Armand, where are you going?
Well, to wrap up your point on Cincinnati and Columbus, keep in mind, again, kind of like we talked about Vancouver, like, again, they're missing Abu Ali. Like, that's like a huge thing that they may get him in round 2 from what I've been reading, from what people have been saying, etc. But then to beat Cincinnati, who is coming off a great year, who is supposed to take that next step, would be just something else. So that's definitely a story I'm looking for. But guys, I'm really surprised none of you guys mentioned Miami and Nashville. This could be the second year that Messi and co gets knocked out of the first round. Is there a lot of pressure on him? I would normally say no, but Messi, I think, is going to put a lot of pressure on him. He takes this very seriously. He takes MLS, I'd say, pretty seriously. And for those guys, for Alba, for Busquets in their last swan song, like, this is it for them. And for Nashville and BJ Callahan, can they do what people would say they can't do? And,
but team. Here's the thing, though. You're right. If it is tied after the first half, that second 45 minutes is going to be absolutely fascinating, right? Like, it could be lock-in, must-see TV. I think Miami's going to be up like 3-0 at halftime.
That's what I'm saying, and that's part of that's what I'm saying. Like, when you feel that the third game is going to just be a blowout,
I don't feel that way, guys.
The drama isn't there. Why? What did you see from Nashville in the second game that makes you think that they can continue, I guess, what they did in that second game that they didn't do in game 1 and they didn't do in the decision that game either?
It's the naivety that they played in game 1, I think, goes out the window in game 3, I would probably say. I don't think they play as
decision
naive.
Day game didn't beat it out of them. Game 1 did, and now they're
right. And I think that they'll be in a much better position. I think cagey will be the wrong word, because I don't think you want to go to a penalty shootout with Miami. I think you'd rather win it in regulation.
I think Nashville would take
the goalkeeper battle.
I think Nashville would take that 100 times out of 100 now.
I don't think so, man. With the shooters that they have, I don't think so. You've seen how, like, a good team like a Miami can capitalize on a PK shootout, where we saw in the Vancouver Dallas game, right? Where, like, all of a sudden you put a couple guys up there that aren't comfortable and you're going to skyrocket a couple shots and call it a day.
I think if they get it to a peak, if Nashville gets it to a shootout in Fort Lauderdale against that team that, as you're saying, is motivated because it's the swan song for two of the guys, because Messi wants to have this trophy lift before he takes the summer off and then go into a World Cup year. If they get it to a penalty shootout, I think that's like success. Is probably the wrong
that's
word,
what they were trying in game 1, and look what happened. They got ripped apart.
I'm not recommending they do that. I'm just saying
why would you want to get to that point?
It was very close in game 2.
Well, you want to win the game, but I don't think they will, because I don't think they're as good of a team.
All right, so real quick, guys, we wanted to talk about, I feel like we mentioned the format a lot, and thank goodness from here, like we said, every game is win or go home at this point, or PK shootout or go home. after we finished discussing round two, guys, I didn't find myself watching a lot of the games. I caught up on highlights. There was a lot of stuff going on with World Series, and MLS really put themselves against kind of a really tough situation. But for me, it was all down to, okay, after game one, you either have, oh, someone wins 2-0, or I'll just watch the third game. Is that what? I don't know.
Well, I mean, listen, it's also like, and I've said this on past shows, but like, there's too many teams. There's too many series to keep track of. Too many teams make the playoffs. If you just had a smaller field, then all of a sudden the drama's increased, even if you do have a best of three situation. Although it's kind of pointless to have the best of three if you lower the inventory, and the whole point is to get more owners, more playoff games that they can sell that are part of the inventory for TV. I just think it is a lot to keep track of. And you're kind of assigning the fans homework with the format, right? Because it's like, not only do you have to figure out when the heck these games are, which we've mentioned doesn't always make sense. Some are Wednesday, Saturday. Some are Monday, another Monday, and then like, not only are you asking fans to really figure out when these games are, you're also asking them to remember who beat who and when, and this one went to a shootout and this one did. It's just like, it is a lot. Now, you could argue like, hey, that's just part of sports, but like, it is not that complicated to track like the baseball playoffs, right? Although
that's probably the most. They're pretty complicated too. But Armand, were you watching much on Saturday? I know you did tune in.
On and off. I mean, again, like if a team that won game one and lost the deciders of game three, right? I didn't watch the early NYC Charlotte game. I think that game was kind of.
I watched that one.
I watched Dallas and Vancouver, and I think that was really it. I think I caught the end of Miami Nashville. I think again the format itself kind of lends itself to. I want to watch a do or die game. Like I'm sorry, that's just the way I'd want to see it, and I want every game to matter. And it feels like in some capacities that's just not the case, right? And I know we talked about the format and how it kind of takes away from that. But I mean, I think you could get a 3-game format if you really wanted to and make all the games matter in some capacity or make it more incentivized in one way or the other. I think it's just right now, it's just, okay, cool. Like Seattle, Minnesota. Okay, cool. Like
I think the other problem to it was, which obviously is out of MLS's control, but outside of which Charlotte NYCFC is really a higher seed in that one. Like that's a coin flip game. But outside of that, the higher seeds won every single game won. So there was no like, ooh, Miami could get knocked out today kind of thing. So
or like okay, last year, I think it was Columbus was on the edge because Columbus lost the game one.
Right, but like Columbus is a 7 seed. If Columbus gets knocked out by Cincinnati, I'm not looking at this like
right. But last year they were a 2 seed. Last year they were a 2 seed, and everyone's like, oh shoot, like they're in danger. So I think some of the matchups were a little lopsided, I think, as well, too.
Even though it was win or go home for some teams, it felt like there were very little stakes for this game because, like in Inter Miami, okay, they lose. Oh, they're down early. Well, they're going to go back home to Fort Lauderdale. I mean, again, that's why I'm saying, like, Minnesota United, I give them credit for rallying a little bit before the half in that Seattle game that the Sounders eventually took control of and finished. I just, like, it's so easy to kind of pack it up and go home for a lot of these teams, and I give them a little credit for not doing that. I guess you could say Miami and Messi scoring late, like, kind of did the same. But this format is just like the whole. What's exciting about a playoff format is the stakes, the do or die. Armand, you apologized earlier for liking that. I don't think you need to do that. I don't think you're alone. I think most people like drama and stakes. That's what makes the playoffs exciting. Now we're to that point, but it took us a while to get here. Then we hit pause again. Then we'll be there again. I don't know, man. I mean, like, how many times can we say, hey, probably time to look at this again? Because it seemed like they were open to looking at it over and over again in the last decade, where it doesn't think like no playoff format ever stuck, Daniel. It was always changing. And we complained about that, but now it's like, no, change this again.
It's like, imagine if, and I know you just said you have invested some time. If I'd invested 180 minutes in Charlotte, New York City already, when it's like basically as you were, and I can just watch game 3 and see what happens. It's kind of like if you're watching like pro wrestling, do you really need to watch every single show in the build up to WrestleMania, or can I watch a 5-minute vignette on this and I'm caught up on the storylines, now let's watch the ending? Like there's just, I would feel like there was no point for me to be spending 180 minutes on this. So still excited though, very locked in for this weekend. All right, embrace debate time, guys. So, I think it's undeniable the two best players. Maybe there's a top three, but over the last 2 months of the MLS season, Lionel Messi and Son Heung-Min Son, they have been the two most electrifying players. A shout out to Denny Bouanga, of course, but Messi and Son, the two biggest names in MLS, the two most electrifying players in MLS. Son, over his last 8 games, has 9 goals and 2 assists. Messi, in his last 10 games in MLS, 13 goals and 7 assists. Just ridiculous. So, Armand, you've got a team in the playoffs right now, and you can either have Messi or Son for the rest of the playoffs in 2025. Which player are you taking?
I'm taking Son.
Yep.
Is this like the Max Kellerman, I'm taking Iguodala, like kind of thing? Where
Yeah,
it's like the last 3 to save the world, and it's like, I'm taking Iguodala, shoot just 3 over Steph Curry? Is that that kind of thing? No, but when it comes down to Son, Messi's magic's amazing. I mean, I feel like we're choosing a 1A or a 1B situation.
Not
right
an
there.
easy question.
But when it comes to Son, I just love how dynamic he is, how quick he is with the ball. This is just more of a personal preference for me. Messi, I think, is very talented in his own right? But the dynamicism that you see with Son, and etc., it's just, for me, it's just more fun to watch if I wanted that. Now, in a clutch situation, obviously, I think both
You're trying to win
pretty
MLS Cup here. You're trying to win MLS Cup.
If I'm trying to win MLS Cup, I'd want Son, because Messi, there is some things you have to cover for with Messi, right? Just some very small things you have to cover for with Messi when on the defensive end. And we saw it last year with Miami in that capacity. Son, you don't necessarily see that.
Nah,
why are you giving
Messi
that
for
look?
me,
We saw it
it's
last
Messi
year,
for me.
John.
Listen,
we saw it last year.
You think that Miami was eliminated last year because of Lionel Messi's defeat?
No, but we saw teams expose that side of it.
Embrace
Him and
debate.
Suarez. That was an easy. That's the thing that people talked about quite a bit.
I would say that's just because their defenders are bad and their
No.
goalkeeper is bad. Well, I mean, last year there was a better situation. You talk about Son, you gave the numbers, Daniel, but you didn't give the numbers of Denny Bouanga. You said shout out Denny Bouanga. I'm sure he appreciates that. I'm sure he's watching. Thumbs up, Denny.
Yeah.
But the fact that Son and Bouanga have had the connection they've had, I know that Messi has running buddies,
Yeah.
but especially at the age that Suarez is at, Alba and Busquets leaving after this year, they're not. If I just get one player, I'm picking Messi. Not only because, and Son obviously makes those around him better, partly Bouanga's included in that, but I think the 1-2 punch that LAFC has with those two players, how their chemistry continues to grow. We were confused at first. How is this going to work out? It's working out fine. They understand each other well. Meanwhile, Messi is sort of dragging some of these guys across the line. Does that mean that, you can take advantage of a space that Lionel Messi leaves? Maybe. The space is also probably there because, again, what is the center back doing? What are the fullbacks doing? So to me, if I just get one player to win an MLS Cup playoff game, it's Messi. His numbers are better too. You listed the numbers. How many goals did he score?
13 in his last 10
And how many
games.
did Son have?
9 in his last 8.
13 is more than 9. So
13 is
if we
more
want to
than
get
9.
really base, stat boy Armand, that's why I'm giving you crap.
I'm
Because I
gonna-
think that Messi is the better individual player right now. Now, long term, you said I want to win MLS Cup this year. Obviously, Son is a better long-term investment with his age, with the fact that he's still adjusting to MLS. But this year, I'm taking Messi on my team.
Well, I'm gonna split the draw here, and I'm taking Son. I gotta
I
go
thought
with
you were
my
going to take
boy
Denny
Armand.
Bouanga. I thought you were going to be like, off the board.
Yeah, I'm going with the Vander. No, Son's going to be my guy here for reasons Armand mentioned. We have not seen Inter Miami win an MLS Cup yet. Now, Messi and Son both have 0 MLS Cups. That's true. But I've got to say, you can kind of game plan Messi out of certain situations. In one-off games, as I mentioned earlier, those counterattack moments are typically what wins these teams MLS Cup a lot of times. The playoffs, once you get past the first round, it's not a war of attrition. It's a one-off series, boom, boom, boom. You just need to be better on that day. And not even be better on that day, have the best moment on that day. And I think we are going to see a moment where Son gets free one time. And if you match up LAFC and Miami right now, I'm probably shading towards LAFC simply because of Son and simply because that one moment, I think that you can get it. Now, that being said, I could look really stupid on this in a few weeks, but right now, 2025 MLS Cup, give me Son over Messi.
I don't think you guys did the prompt right.
All right, moving down a level. Not by promotion relegation, though that will happen soon. Moving down a level to the USL. Maybe. Well, no, it's happening because USL has added a president of what is going to be known as USL Division 1. That is as they put in their new tiered system. And they have hired Tony Scholes, who was the chief football officer of the Premier League and a former CEO at Stoke City, to be the new president of the top tier Division 1 starting next year. Now, he is, quote, from the press release, he will oversee operations of the league, shaping its structure, standards, and long-term development as USL prepares to introduce promotion relegation to U.S. professional soccer. This comes just a few days before today, on Tuesday, North Carolina FC has announced they are shutting up shop, looking to rejoin Division 1 in a couple of years, but they are not going to be playing in USL Championship. John, up and down, some good news for USL, some unfortunate news for USL, but do you feel like the arrow is pointing up by kind of the recent news or down?
I think it sounds harsh, but I think down. This happens at the end of every season, and it continues to sort of just resonate that USL in a lot of ways is minor league. Like teams go dark in minor league hockey and teams go dark in minor league baseball, and that is something that happens. And it's not like I think like people now hear that as like an insult. And I certainly don't mean it as such. And perhaps this new Division 1 means that that doesn't really apply anymore. But I think the proof will be in the taste of the pudding. I really kind of won't believe it until I see it. I think that like USL deserves a lot of credit and praise when we talk about the fact that they're bringing soccer to so many different markets that are big enough for soccer, that can support soccer. You talk about City. Phoenix, you talk about, well, but Oklahoma City is a great example, right? They got it wrong in Oklahoma City. It didn't work in Oklahoma City. They had multiple ownership groups in the past that were not up to the standard. And look, if the North Carolina current ownership group isn't up to the standard, then okay, like maybe you have to change that. But what they're saying, at least my understanding is, hey, we're going to hit pause, we're taking 2 years off, and we're coming back as the same brand in 2 years, bigger and better than ever when we can make more money as a D1 property. For me, if I'm a fan in Raleigh, or if I'm a fan in that area, like, what do you mean? Like, you guys were my team, I went and supported you, I spent my money to see you, invested in week after week watching the games, and then you're telling me that I just don't have that in my life for 2 years, and then you're going to come back and be better and expect me to still spend the same amount of or more money, or you want a city to pony up for a stadium for something where the proof of concept is you saying that you couldn't do it anymore. And it's not, I'm not just on North Carolina, like this has happened in a number of different markets. This happened in Reno, Nevada. This happened in northern Colorado. This happened. And again, like here in North Texas, the team up in Texoma just went down from League One to League Two after only 1 year. At a certain point, like, yes, it's great that soccer's growing, that these markets are popping up. Corpus Christi's getting a League One team. But if we're just in this constant cycle where a new team emerges, one team dies, lightning crashes, I don't know how much progress is getting made. If this Tony guy's arrival is part of more stability for these markets, for these teams, then I think long-term the arrow points up. But right now, I just feel that there's a lot of ambition being tossed around, which is good. But I think fans have a reason to be a little skeptical or to hold off a little bit into fully going for it until we've seen exactly what this looks like. And we haven't had the plans announced yet, and we know, a little bit, but not everything. I like USL. I like a lot of the teams. I like a lot of the people working in and around the league. I like the idea of putting, like some of the, like Orange County putting great players, Louisville City developing great players. I think that's so important to the growth of the game in the country. I'm just not convinced yet that they're going to be able to compete with MLS, which kind of seems like it's the goal.
When you look at USL and you look at their whole plans, and the reason why I kept saying if they implement promotion relegation, I'm not convinced it's going to be a true promotion relegation for a few years, if that makes any sense. I think it's going to be closed off. I think for this reason, for the Texomas, for some of these other clubs that are in League One or League Two, are they ready to make that jump, from League Two to League One to the Championship? Or whatever they're calling the Premier Division. I'm not sure that a lot of these teams are ready to make that jump if possible. I think that's the crunch that's coming down to. Remember, to be a Division One league in US, they have these stadium requirements, right? And I think for some, they're trying to get these waivers done, but the stadium requirement's 15K stadium. It was the whole reason why Atletico Dallas did not build their stadium in Garland, because they wanted a bigger stadium. They initially planned for 10,000, I think the number was. They wanted a bigger one. I don't think the city of Garland said.
And now they've got 100,000.
Yeah, exactly.
And now they moved to Cotton Bowl, but now their training facility also fell apart too, and now they're looking for a new spot for a training facility. For me, I don't think we'll see a true promotion relegation, at least for a few years, because these clubs have to be ready, and we don't know the plans of the promotion relegation yet. We just know they're going to do it in 2028. That's all we've heard.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, Armand. Just before Daniel jump in, I think like the fact that teams are self-relegating shows
that's what I was going to say.
And look, maybe, man, in some ways it's like, oh, that's a good thing because you can see who are the contenders and who are the pretenders. But man, it just, to me, it sets off some alarm bells. Dan.
Do we know how many teams are going to be in this Division
We don't know.
1 yet? Because that's again where I'm like, how many teams? And again, not a criticism, and it's love the ambition, and look, if it doesn't need to be perfectly right in the first year of the competition, but like you said, if teams are self-relegating in many ways, which is happening, and North Carolina, we'll see if they come back. Hopefully they do. That would be great. It's a great market, the courage, etc. But if teams are self-relegating, do we have 30 teams that aspire to be in Division 1? Do we have teams that want to get promoted if they are suddenly going to have to go from, okay, we have 10,000, now we got to up it to 15,000. We see this in the Premier League where teams will get, promoted. But the Premier League, when you get promoted, you get like $100 million. So you can find a way to find that money.
Daniel, I think a good example, sorry to interrupt you, but I think a good example is Liga MX, right? Like some of these teams don't have when promotion relegation was a thing, some of those teams wouldn't have the requirements to get promoted. Am I correct by understanding that, John? That some teams they couldn't get promoted because they didn't hit the requirements needed for that.
No teams can be now. The situation is they say that they will bring promotion and relegation back, and one team is eligible. So that team wins promotion, then they'll go up. It's Atlante, I think. But is trying to get licensed as well. But you have all these requirements.
Yeah.
But if you can't hit them, then what does it matter?
Yeah, and it's we'll see. I do think though the hiring, it's a very ambitious hire, and it's great to see that aspect. You don't want any brain drain. Like it's whatever the opposite of brain drain is. Like,
and I think it's intriguing, man. I think we're kind of casting this negative. I think none of us are as down, quote unquote, on USL as a whole as we're kind of speaking around. But I do think that in a way, I guess I feel like USL gets a pass because everyone's we want soccer to work in these markets. But Memphis is another one, right? That's a perfect USL city, and it didn't work. And now what's the situation? I'm not sure. So I just yes, there should be soccer teams everywhere. Yes, USL could be the place to bring it. And I think it's an intriguing opportunity for even a guy who's working in the Premier League who says, America's ripe for soccer development. The green shoots are there. I can be the one to water those seeds. Yeah, and we need more of that. And maybe it is through USL. I just don't think we have enough details yet to say, it's going to work.
One thing that did work for Seattle Reign coach Laura Harvey, as she mentioned, this is a decent segue. As she said to the Soccerish podcast with Lori Lindsay and what's the other host? I'm drawing a blank here. Christina Uncle, Lori Lindsley and Christina Uncle.
I was hoping you had it written down.
So she said, quote, I was like, I wonder if ChatGPT could give you information about football and would it be beneficial? One day in the offseason, I was writing things into ChatGPT. What is a Seattle Reigns identity? And it would spurt it out. And I was like, I don't know if that's true or not. And then I was like, what do you need to be successful in the NWSL? Then I put in what formation should you play to beat NWSL teams? And it spurted out every team in the league, what formation you should play. And for 2 teams, I'm not going to say who they are. It went, you should play a back 5. So I did. No joke. That's why I did it. It was early in the season. And I said to the coaching staff, I'm not joking. This is what I did. And they were like, huh, interesting. So, Armand, do you think, and keep in mind, Laura Harvey, winningest coach in NWSL history. She's won the Shield 3 times, 3-time NWSL Coach of the Year. The Reign were 4-4-2 in their first 10 games, finished middle of the pack. The playoffs start this weekend in NWSL. But, boy, you're calling for her job in the group chat.
You could not get that out of me if I was a coach in soccer.
It is that I will agree to that.
You could not, even if I was like, you had a gun in my head, I would never let that out.
You got to be really secure in your job. You got to be really
that's like, look, the reason why I said in the chat, I was like, damn, you should be fired for that statement, is because ChatGPT. Okay, I guess this is gonna delve into a segment on ChatGPT itself, but I use ChatGPT a lot.
I think it's important. I think it's important because I think that my big problem with this is like it's a misunderstanding of what you use those things for.
So ChatGPT, I use it all the time in my job. But we use it specifically, a company tailored one that it has information already ingested into it for code, for analyzing, hey, like, we don't think this code makes sense. What's wrong with this, et cetera, et cetera. I've done what Laura Harvey has done when try to look into, okay, how's this work in soccer or other sports? Well, first off, it told me that Luka Doncic was still in the Dallas Mavericks, so that was a promising start with ChatGPT. Yeah, I every day I cry and wish that never happened. But the information was just completely inaccurate. And what ChatGPT more than likely was probably doing was I think, John, you're going to allude to this, pulling from someone else's ideas or something like that. ChatGPT is only as powerful as the information you'll feed it into, right? Like, it's not like its own thing. I know AI can take off, but right now its own iteration from so much things that I've done, it takes information that can either be incorrect or correct from other sources. You cannot use ChatGPT for soccer tactics. I'm sorry. That's asinine. That's insane.
I think one thing, first of all, I'm surprised she used ChatGPT instead of Copilot in a Microsoft town, right? Seattle, pretty Microsoft. The club ownership has some ties, etc. So that was interesting to me. I think it is a fundamental misunderstanding of how these large language models work. I, as a writer, creative, I'm no fan, to be honest. But I think it's totally harmless to sort of be playing around, to ask funny questions, and even to sort of start some of your decision making. Daniel, you gave her credentials. Laura Harvey is a good soccer coach. And I'll say this, she's a soccer coach who doesn't mind playing ugly soccer. If you watched a couple of Reign games this year like I have, she didn't need help. She didn't need prodding from anyone to play just disgusting game plans, defensive soccer. So I don't think that anything really changed. I think maybe that she, you know what, maybe I should play a disgusting, ugly game plan, because that's what she likes to do with the Reign, and it works. I can't really knock it. Again, we're talking about different styles of football. To me, is it a fireable offense? No. I think she probably meant, look, like, she is a jovial person. She jokes around in the press conference. Sometimes she gets so heated in the press conference. She's fun to listen to, I would say. I think she meant it to be kind of a goofy anecdote for a podcast. It kind of took a life of its own. I don't think it is wise, but I'm also thinking that it's probably a little bit of, ginning up a good story for the podcast. I don't think she needs help as a coach. I don't think she needs help for negative tactics. So for me, she can stick around as long as the Microsoft folks aren't too upset.
So ChatGPT loves a good parking of the bus in a back 5. I got to give her an applause, because you know what? All of us in all of our jobs, I'm a big proponent, Armand, just like you, of, look, ChatGPT and all of these different AI tools, in work, businesses are not giving you more resources. They are pulling resources from you in almost every capacity, in every job. That's not a criticism of any individual job. NWSL is growing and growing. I bet you staff sizes are not growing in NWSL, and Laura Harvey probably has to do more work now than she did previously, with more pressure than she had previously, expecting better results than she had previously, with the same pay, with the same resources, etc. if those who learn how to use AI tools to do the job of 3 people are going to keep their jobs and are going to thrive, rather than AI is coming for our job, you need to use AI to make you better at your job. So I fully applaud Laura Harvey. I think she's done a great job with this. I think I'm going to start using ChatGPT and asking it. Like, I want to test this out sometimes, like before some Champions League games, maybe before the World Cup, and just see how can, once the U.S. draws out, like, what is the best way for the United States to defeat the teams, and see how much that matches up with Pochettino's tactics, and see which one is right.
Yeah, just start an experiment, see how much what if Pochettino was using ChatGPT, you can see the parallels. You know who I wish used ChatGPT? Nico Harrison, because ChatGPT said that trade between Luka, ChatGPT wouldn't have done that trade. So can you imagine, if Nico was Laura Harvey?
ChatGPT is just a collection of writers who are not getting paid to have their information stolen. So that's unpaid writers wouldn't have traded Luka, and that's true. I wouldn't have, and that's me.
Wow. Well, we'll see what happens with that. Use ChatGPT to see how to see how the Seattle Sounders.
You know what? Compare Messi versus Son. Do Messi versus Son MLS statistics, and
it's going to tell you Son plays for Spurs.
Is 13 bigger than 7?
Never liked AI. AI opinions are terrible. Yeah. Well, we'll see. But anyways, that'll wrap us up for the week. Thanks you guys for listening, and we will catch you after the round 3 playoff games.